Hello and welcome to webinar Twitter for Business, brought to you by the Freelancer Club. We've got our Twitter handle, Freelancer Club, up on the screen, which you can all hopefully see. Just a little about the webinar today. We're going to be going for around 25 minutes in total. Questions are very welcome, and if we get time towards the end, I'll do my best to get through as many as possible. We're also going to have a few giveaways at the end of the session, and we'll go through those once we're done with the Twitter webinar. So a little content in terms of what we're going to talk about. I'm going to try to cover as much as possible over the next 20-25 minutes, and it's going to start at a very basic level that I will whiz through pretty quickly, and I'm going to cover as much as I can relatively briefly. So what I'm hoping is that it enables you to action a few of the ideas that we present, or at least give you a couple of tips and tricks that you're able to take onto your own Twitter account. If you do want to take notes, either pen or paper or using your device, I would recommend that. And if you want to take it to the next level and open up a second screen, if you are laptop or desktop, then we can actually work through some of the things we're talking about on your own account instantly. So let's jump straight into it. Let's get into the basics. Twitter speak, or certain jargon, a lot of this will be hopefully familiar to most of you. What a tweet is: 140 characters, followers and following. Use the word handle during this webinar, which refers to the name of the account. So in this case, our handle is Freelancer Club, or at Freelancer Club. And then hashtags we'll be talking about a bit, I'm sure you've all heard of, and are typically used to identify a specific topic or to find a certain conversation or campaign via the search feature. Do's and don'ts that have set us in good stead since we launched our Twitter account a couple of years ago. The one area that we found to be very valuable was making sure that you follow relevant people, taking an actual interest in Twitter as opposed to feeling that it's an obligation you have to dip in and out of for your business. It's going to benefit you. So following the right type of people is to better conversations, more engagement, depending on your objectives, more leads and sales, an ability to promote yourself and your business to the right people. A lot of businesses like to buy likes and buy followers, and although that can look good from the outside, it's very rarely useful from a business perspective. Now, we generally recommend with freelancers to split your personal and your business accounts. And we understand that this is a little tricky sometimes because so many freelancers use themselves and their own name as their brand. However, we'd still suggest that you keep anything that you're doing in your personal life to one side, unless it directly relates to your business. We think that you should be separating the two accounts. So tweet and retweet about interesting things related to your business or sector. I've underlined this term related because what we want to see on a Twitter feed are your tweets, your thoughts, your comments, your images, or things that you've retweeted that relate to your sector and what you think your audience will be interested in. So you may have a bunch of great content that you're putting out there, but if you're retweeting articles that have nothing to do with your business, it can a follower, and you can potentially end up with people unfollowing you because of that. Content is probably the #1 question we get asked about from freelancers. They often ask, what should I post about? They feel they don't have anything interesting to say or images to show, particularly during quiet periods. Well, we want to to ensure that you're not tweeting things just for the sake of it. Now, unless you're a foodie or your business is all about food photography, for example, taking a photo of your breakfast won't be much good. These likes and retweets that you see on certain generally don't result in too much. So just think about content. We're going to get into that later, but knowing what to tweet is going to be half the battle. Images statistically are proven to provide a much higher level of engagement on Twitter. Generally, you want to use images that are, again, related to what you do, to use images that you're legally able to use. We see a lot of people post images that are clearly not for public consumption and whom are breaking copyright law. There's quite a lot of ignorance about this, and we think, particularly moving forward, that it's going to become more restrictive in a good way to start to protect creatives' work. So be careful about the images that you use. If you do want to use images from Google, you'll find that there's a search tool under the filter system that allows you to filter by copyright usage. So you can choose images that are free to use and feel free to use those. Another site that we really like is Pixabay, and that are free to use, and they don't cost anything. So check them out. And lastly, don't just talk about yourself. So accounts that are very self-centered or focused around just what it is that you do can often come across as incredibly salesy and promotional. Sure that Twitter is a conversation, and at its origins, Twitter is there to enable us to have quick, often brief conversations with people from all over the world, and with extreme ease and ability to do so means that we've got a platform that shouldn't be used to just chat about who you are. Again, we want to try to avoid any all the time. And finally, do tweet regularly. Something that we've noticed is people will often schedule tweets, have them post once a day, jump in to do anything else after that. If you're just looking to have a Twitter presence online, that's fine, but I wouldn't expect to generate many sales. So let's talk a little bit about Twitter specifically for freelancers and why it's such an important platform for the freelance community, in particular for creative freelancers who work in the visual arts. Well, number one, it's a really strong platform for generating new contacts, for networking and databasing. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about influencer marketing later on, and we'll tap into this a little bit deeper. But if you want to find out, connect with somebody, you can run into the search box and see, can you track them down on Twitter? It's often a very easy way to form a connection that's less formal than sending an email. I think from our experience particularly, your chances are a lot higher of making strong contacts, particularly people who are hard to reach or in high profile positions, if you use Twitter or social media, as opposed to sending them a formal email. It's a great platform for promoting your service. Because Twitter is so fast, things get put up quickly and then they get lost quickly. Promoting a service is often, when it comes to flash promotions, or if you want to put a discount out, a quick sale, or anything that's seasonal, for example, Christmas or summer specials, all work pretty well on Twitter. Speaking of offering discounts and promos, we've found with Twitter, if you can combine your promo and discount with an image of that promo and discount, you start to receive a lot of engagement, and certainly a higher percentage of engagement than if it's just text. It's a great platform for showing off new work and any achievements, and get instant feedback from people, particularly if you have an engaged following, and you're able to get a sense of what people think about your work so that you can get it out fresh. Again, remember, not too dissimilar to Snapchat. Things don't last long in Twitter. So you're able to pin it to the top if you want to hold on to the tweet and have more people see it. But typically, you want to get the work out there and on other platforms where it's more static. And lastly, it's a great place for finding jobs. Freelance positions particularly, and the sheer nature of freelancing and freelance work is very transient. So what we find is people want to hire a freelancer quickly, and the job tends to get snapped up relatively quickly. Not so much the case for the bridal industry, where bride and grooms will take their time on who they want to choose, but often for short contract-based jobs or urgent jobs that need to be filled, Twitter is a fantastic platform to be able to source somebody, and from a freelancer's perspective, to pick up a bunch of jobs all the time if you know what you're doing. So let's talk about growing your followers. When you first start your Twitter account, it's a pretty lonely space, and Twitter will encourage you to follow a certain number of celebrities that generally will have no use to you whatsoever. So what we want to do is start thinking about how we're able to grow relevant followers are going to be useful to our business. That we would always suggest is think about that. Who do you want following you? A fashion photographer, maybe you want to follow models, makeup artists, hairstylists, and use Twitter to form connections so that you can collaborate and create work with other people. If, however, you're a business that's looking for new sales and leads, it's important that you can grow your followers in that sector. A wedding hairstylist would ultimately be looking for brides, the mother of the brides, or even bridesmaids, all to be following that account so that they can hopefully have them click through to their website. So the most obvious way to have people follow you is to follow them. So follow people, they'll follow you back. What we don't suggest is that you blitz follow, which is just running through Twitter and following everybody who comes up in front of you. Do try and be as specific as possible, and be a little picky when you're starting out. It's definitely worth having a smaller group of relevant followers than a large group of inactives. Engage, comment on other people's work, post or join a conversation. I think of all the points in this section, this is probably the most salient of them all. Important aspect to engage in other people's work or what they're talking about. It taps into the previous slide about not being so self-centered and just talking about yourself. So by engaging in other people that you like or commenting on their work, they'll often come back and respond, and you'll hopefully then start to see them following you. We're also finding that engagement, which is mentioning them on a quoted tweet, as in you're talking to your audience about them, is equally a really nice way to get them to come back to you. So very easy to write this tweet, but very difficult to action it. So be interesting, funny, educational, informative, and relevant. Generic posts don't work. We often find that some of the great Twitter accounts are some of the most obscure, and often they're an escapism for people to tap into and read a few funny tweets or see a few funny conversations. Equally, if you're working in a profession where you want your brand to be slightly more serious, then you could be more educational or informative. Whichever way you choose to go, it's always good to have a plan in place and to be relevant. So if you're posting work that's posting tweets, I beg your pardon, that are circling around what it is you do and your sector, and then you're going to be able to attract the right sort of people. Thread. We talked about the handle earlier on, which is the @freelancer club in our case, and whatever your account name is. Getting this in as many places as possible is a really good way to increase your follower numbers. So when you do anything from presentations to sit-down networking events, or if you're just looking to have a presence on different social media platforms, you can put your handle and a link back to your Twitter account on all of these. So business cards and email signatures are two really easy ways to get your handle out there. And you may think passing your Twitter handle around offline, as in on a business card, may not be a huge number of new followers, and you'd be right, but you will generally get people who are relevant and who are valuable clicking through to you. So let's have a quick look at the perfect promo tweet. So this is an example of a tweet when you're looking to promote your service, or if you have a new promotion. And generally there's a 4-step rule here that you can apply to anything. So the first thing you want to do is engage your reader in what it is that you're talking about. So number one, looking for the perfect makeup artist for your big day. If I am, and if this is the area that I'm interested in, I should be grabbed by this tweet. Like they teach you in English class when you're writing an essay, should be something to grab people's attention. Secondly, you need to resolve that engagement. So by resolve, we mean we're offering a solution, which in this case is a pro MUA, which is a makeup artist, offering a free trial. And number three, we're explaining what the person needs to do. In this case, they need to click for details. And arguably most importantly is the call to action. And the call to action refers to the link where you want that person to go. So when you're putting together any tweets from a promotional perspective where you want somebody to click through onto your site or onto a landing page, try to follow those 4 rules. Some other good tips here are that you can add in hashtags that are related to the sector. So in here you might put a hashtag for bridal or makeup and add a photo. And in that photo, you can also add up to 10 people's handles. Again, if they're relevant, that can really help you boost the tweet. Now you do only have 140 characters. So if we were to action all of those ideas, it wouldn't fit. And that's where you need to get a little creative with your writing. But try and keep this in mind when it comes to putting out promotional tweets. So hashtags. There's a good debate happening at the moment as to whether hashtags are still relevant. Our opinion on this is that they are, but probably not for the reason they were intended. The hashtag that we use, for instance, for our ongoing campaign is no free work. And we talk about this campaign so often, everywhere from universities to business meetings, that if anyone does want to know a little bit more about it, onto Twitter and search that hashtag, and they'll see months and months worth of information all about that campaign. So purely as a means for people to be able to sort and find the campaign, we think it's still a pretty useful tool. So why do you use a hashtag? Well, as mentioned, you would typically use it to denote a campaign or a topic that people are talking about. Start your own campaign or bring up your own hashtag. We'd always recommend trying to find something that isn't overly used, because then when people search it, they'll just see your content. If you type in the search bar what you want to read about or engage in, this is where you'll be able to find all of that information. And obviously when you're researching, you can search without a hashtag too. The graphic here on the right will run through a few bits and pieces on the rules of hashtag. that I would urge you to screenshot, or you'll be able to pick up after this. So influencer marketing. This is a very, very powerful way for you to be able to get your brand and get your services out to thousands of people very quickly. So what is influencer marketing? Well, in essence, you're looking to isolate people who have a strong profile with a very influential stance within the sector. So you might find a celebrity that has a few 100,000 followers or subscribers on YouTube. And if they're in your sector, a great scenario would be for them to talk about your business. Now, getting them to do that is not that easy. In fact, PR agencies will charge you an arm and a leg just for the privilege. But it is becoming more and more important within our industry, and one's profile is starting to show up all over even model agencies to show how important it is to have that large following. You tag yourself on to influential Twitter users or any social media users will ultimately be another avenue for you to promote your work. So here's how you do it. The first point is highlighting who your influencers are. Now, we came across this great site called socialrank.com, and for free, you can put in your Twitter handle and it will list Twitter followers. And you've got a foot in the door there. So you'll see who follows you and who has the most followers. These are the guys who are probably the easiest to connect with. The main reason is because you both follow each other. It means you can direct message each other and you can send something through. The second point is just a passive tweet. So this is a strategy that you could try if you felt a direct message wasn't convenient or possible. And again, we spoke about a passive tweet earlier on. So you want to make sure that you're not nagging somebody or just adding to the list of compliments onto their posts. Try and send a quote retweet, which will enable you to put your own thoughts onto their post. And often you can talk about it aimed at your audience. Again, this is a nice compliment that doesn't seem sycophantic, but rather something that's going to endear you to the poster. And often with influencer marketing, it's a slow drip effect. You need to constantly build up these connections and hope that you can spark that initial back and forth. Something that we've really been surprised about is how reactive people can be when you do reach out to them. Even people who you might think would be way out of your grasp or above your station, even with a thank you or a like onto your posts. And if even you can start with that pinch of engagement, you can develop that relationship. And something would be really, we would really recommend is to know your pitch and have your pitch ready when the time comes. So the reason why you would start to talk and engage with influencers is hopefully so that you can ask them to perhaps join a campaign that you're running or collaborate on a project. They're just going to promote you if there's no gain for them. So have a think about what it is that they're going to get out of working with you or sharing your content. So tips and tricks. I'm going to run through a few quick bits and pieces here that we found really useful, and hopefully you'll be able to extract a few bits and pieces from this too. Twitter has its own advanced search option that not a lot of people know about. It's completely free to use, and you can find it at twitter.com/search-advance. Now, the reason you would use this is because if you take a look at the image, you can see you're able to search for people in different areas, location-based, via date, and even via keywords. So This is really advantageous if, for instance, you are looking for specific people to follow in certain geographical areas, or if you're looking for specific topics. Say you're a makeup artist and you're looking for new work. You could type in makeup artist and needed as the two keywords under all of these words, which is the first field at the top. And what you'll get is a whole list of conversations where those words, makeup artist and needed, appear. And in all likelihood, there'll be a good percentage of jobs within that thread. Under places and where you can choose the location, this is really, really useful. Twitter is so vast that often when you start to join conversations or look for people who are relevant, particularly if you're looking for potential clients, in the general search, you'll often get people from all over the world. You can sometimes spend time on these guys until you realize that they're not even in the same country as you. So by putting in your location request, you're able to really isolate a potential lead. The biography or the About Me section on your Twitter feed is one of the most useful areas for you to be able to talk about your business, what you do, and to have a link back to take people to where you want them to go. So in our case, the Freelancer Club provides freelancers with jobs, contacts, discounts, masterclasses, and more. And you can check out the latest jobs by clicking this link. You'll always have a space underneath worldwide where you can put your website. So we would suggest using the biography to create a different URL and to offer people another option. As you can see, we're also on Vine. So if you are, you can connect that. And then again, that'll enable you to bring more clients in to see your work. We'd never suggest that you buy followers. And this is something that we've seen a lot of people do, audit people's accounts quite easily. If you Google search fake followers, you'll be able to put people's handles into the engine, and it'll tell you what percentage of followers they have are fake. It's actually a really good idea to do this for your own account as well, because you may not realize you've been following people that are completely useless to you. Another good tip is the handle rule. Not a lot of people realize that when you start a tweet with somebody's handle, for example, at Freelancer Club, and then you write the tweet or the post after that, the only people that will see the post are your shared audience or your shared followers. So if you want to put a post out and include somebody's handle in the post, but you want everybody to see it, word, even if it's a full stop just before the handle. Now for freelancers, all social media can be a bit of a pain in the neck. And so most will use a scheduling tool like Hootsuite, TweetDeck, or Buffer, which are probably the three most popular. And scheduling tweets isn't a bad idea at all. What we would suggest is that you schedule a few tweets and make sure that you are engaging when possible. The beauty of Twitter is that you can take it on your phone. So even gaps in between the day when you're not working, you can grab it and just engage back with anybody who's engaged with you. The whole purpose of this is to start a conversation and to try and spark communication between you and somebody else, or ideally you and multiple people. So if you're scheduling tweets to go out and people are replying to those, it's really important that you get back on and follow up. These are the moments where you can often generate leads, which will result in sales. It's been around for a few months now, but Twitter have released Twitter Moments, which is a news feed. People are still figuring out how they can utilize it for business. Typically, from our perspective, it's a good source to see what's trending, what people are interested in, and to get some good content ideas. So if you do dip into Moments and see something that's related to your business, it's always a great opportunity to join that conversation. Another tip is to make lists. So making lists in Twitter is really easy, and it's very useful for influencer marketing, or if you're looking to retweet content and you don't have a lot of time on your own platform. So you can make lists very easily. You just click on the Me Profile section, which is the small thumbnail image on your account, and go to Lists. And in there, you can just follow the steps. So for instance, you might make a list of the top 10 makeup artists or top photographers within your sector. And what they're posting could be really interesting content for your followers. So it's quite easy to every day dip in and retweet a couple of bits and pieces throughout the day. It keeps your feed ticking over, and it keeps your followers happy. And that's it. Thank you very much for sticking with me. As promised, we always like to give something away at our, and today is no different. We're going to be giving a free masterclass ticket to the first 5 people who email support@thefreelancerclub.co.uk. 7th of July in Shoreditch House, so make sure you're available. It's a 7:00 p.m. kickoff. So if you can make it and you're interested in joining us and meeting us in person, email support@thefreelancerclub.co.uk with the subject, The Law and Me. And we also have a little money off for anybody who wants to join the club. 50% off for mentor sessions as well. If you do want to go pro for just 35 quid, use code webinar2. Thank you so much for joining us, and I'm going to jump straight into some questions. Okay, a question has come in: how often should I tweet? It's not an easy one to answer, but typically you want to remain relatively regular when it comes to tweeting and the frequency of tweeting. If you find that your tweets aren't generating a lot of engagement, then you may want to look at the type of content that you're using. Typically, if you're starting to see people enjoy your tweets, which might be shots of your work or whichever posts you're putting out there, then there's no harm in putting a lot of content out. So the regularity of your tweets probably depends on the engagement levels. And what you'll notice on each of your posts will be a little graph icon that if you click, it'll actually give you a breakdown engagement. So a lot of the time you might have a whole bunch of retweets and likes, but when you look into it, you might find that very few people clicked on your link. That tweet will be slightly diminished. So do have a think about engagement and make sure that you see some strong numbers before you start chucking hundreds of tweets out every day. Another question has come in about multiple content. Okay, so I think what they're asking is, should I use the same content on different social media platforms? Yeah, there's 2 schools of thought here. One is, yes, that's fine, but it probably pays not to do it simultaneously. So there are tools out there that enable you to connect your accounts. When you post something on Instagram, for instance, it'll appear at the same time. We've used similar content and the same content sometimes on multiple platforms, but we definitely try to space it out unless it's very topical. And the reason is we don't want to use each of our platforms to just hammer the same thing over and over. So we do try to mix it up as much as possible. The other school of thought is to not do that, because each platform, such as Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, should almost have its own reasons and its own value. So again, it's always worth asking the question, why would anybody come to each of the platforms? What use are each of these platforms for my users? for my potential clients and for my business? I think if you know the answer to that, then you can start to put a strategy together. We have run out of time, but any other questions, please do post them on Twitter. And if you use hashtag webinar Twitter, I'll jump in and take a look later on. Thank you for the other questions. I'll actually post them too, and I will get around to answering them. Have a great night. Thanks very much for listening.